everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make my birthday cupcake softie. It's soft and squishy and it's the perfect thing to give someone if it's their birthday or they just love cupcakes. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath the video. The birthday cupcake measures about 8 to 9 inches tall and it's about 16 inches around, so it's a nice size. It's the perfect size to put on your table to decorate with, but it's also quick to whip up because we're going to be making it out of a chunky number 5 yarn. And the yarn that I'm using is Soft Essentials from Red Heart. And I'll be using these 4 colors: the cream, the teal, orchid, and this dusty pink. These are the 4 colors that I'm choosing to use. Now, as always, you can choose whatever colors that you would like. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to use the chunky number 5 is you can use 2 strands of worsted weight number 4. But keep in mind, it might be just a smidge bigger because the 2 strands of worsted weight number 4 will be just slightly thicker than the 1 strand of the number 5. So just to make sure you understand, the Soft Essentials from Red Heart is a chunky or a bulky number 5. All right? And we're going to be stitching today with our J hook. And I've chosen to go with a little bit smaller hook than what the yarn calls for in order to help not have the holes in the top of our cupcake. The J hook is called a J10 and is a 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends, and you'll also need your scissors. And then you'll also need some polyester fiber fill or stuffing of your choice. We're going to be starting with the bottom of the cupcake and then work our way up to the top. Then we'll come back and add this ruffle, and then we'll add the cherry on top. All right, so we're going to begin with our slip knot and we're going to chain 5. We're going to join this chain 5 into a circle. We'll put the tail of yarn over our hook and pull it through that loop. Snug that down, and then we'll tie that stay knot to keep our loop from coming undone. All right. We'll put our hook in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet 9 more times so that we have a total of 10. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, whoops, and go through the second 2. All right, so there's my second double crochet because again, our chain 3 counted as our first. And so now I'm going to stitch 8 more double crochets. And if you'll notice, I'm stitching over that tail of yarn. And this is because when we're done, we can pull that tail of yarn and gather the hole in the center nice and closed. All right, let's see how many I have. Here's my chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need to do 2 more. There's 9 and 10. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Oops, I got a string. There we go. Now I have chain 3. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to gently pull on that string and see how that closes that hole up in the center, and then I can come back in and weave that in later. All right, let's do row 2. Our chain 3 counts is our first double crochet, and it looks like I only have a chain 2 there. There we go. Now I have a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. And then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, and that will give us 20 double crochets. Two double crochets in each of the 10 double crochets around. I have stitched 2 double crochets in each of the 10 double crochets around. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. And we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. The only difference is we're going to have more stitches. We're going to stitch another double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in each of those 20 double crochets, and so for row 3 we'll have 40 double crochets. 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around. And this is giving us the bottom of our cupcake. All right. 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, join to the top of the chain 3. I've stitched 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around, and now for row 3 I have 40 double crochets. We're going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 3. Now for row 4 we're going to be stitching in the back loops only. Let me grab this cupcake. This is going to give us this edge right here, and that's going to help our cupcake sit better. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet around in the back loops only. Now if you'll notice on this row you have loops on this side and loops on this side. Your front loops are the loops that are facing you. Your back loops are the loops that are facing away. And so we're going to be stitching only 1 double crochet in each of the back loops instead of stitching through both loops. And as you stitch, you'll see that that line will show up. And those are the loops we didn't stitch in. 1 double crochet in each double crochet around, working in the back loops only. You'll also notice that since we're stitching only 1 double crochet, that we'll begin to see the sides of our cupcake. So just to repeat, 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around, stitching or working in the back loops only. I completed row 4, stitching 1 double crochet in each stitch around, working in the back loops only. I'm going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now this next row we're going to begin doing what's called front post double crochet, and that's what's going to give us these ridges in the side of our cupcake paper. All right, so that it looks like the paper that the cupcake sits in. So here's our chain 3 that counts as our first double crochet. The next stitch, we're going to stitch a double crochet around the post. We normally stitch up here, but we're going to go around this post, all right? So I've yarned over, I'm going to go around the post, and I'm going to stitch a double crochet. We're still stitching a double crochet, we're just putting it in a different place, all right? So now we're going to go in the next stitch and stitch a double crochet. Then we'll go to the next stitch and stitch a front post. And again, it's called front post double crochet because we're stitching that double crochet in the front post of the stitch instead of in the top. The next stitch we'll stitch a regular double crochet. And what you'll see is these ridges that are sticking out. They give us, like I said earlier, the effect of the paper that sits, or that the cupcake sits in. All right, so we'll be alternating front post double crochet and regular double crochet. Front post double crochet and regular double crochet every other stitch. Front post double crochet, regular double crochet, alternating every other stitch, working around our cupcake. And we'll repeat this, alternating front post double crochet and regular double crochet, working all the way around till we get back to our chain 3. I've completed row 5, alternating my regular double crochets with my front post double crochets. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3, and you should have ended with a front post so that you can join right to your chain 3 and it flows around. We're going to go ahead and do another chain 3, and then for row 6 we're just going to repeat what we just did. The only difference is we'll be putting our front posts around the front posts. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to front post double crochet around the front post double crochet. And then we'll put a double crochet in the regular double crochet. Front post around the front post double crochet, and a regular double crochet in the regular double crochet. And this is going to keep with the effect of the ridge that we want to look like the cupcake paper. And we'll work our way around, stitching one front post double crochet in each front post double crochet and a regular double crochet in each regular double crochet. And you should still have 40 stitches on these rows. We aren't increasing or decreasing any stitches, and so your stitch count should remain at 40 stitches. I'm just going to continue on around for row 6 to stitch a front post double crochet in each of the front post double crochets and a regular double crochet in each of the regular double crochets, alternating my stitches all the way around. I've completed row 6, alternating my stitches between the front post double crochet and the regular double crochet. Again, we're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. And then for rows 7 and 8, we're going to repeat what we did for row 6. The front post double crochet alternated with the regular double crochet for 2 more rows, row 7 and row 8. Alternating the front post double crochets and regular double crochets for 2 more rows. I've completed those next 2 rows. I joined to my chain 3, but I'm not going to chain 3 because we're going to change colors. So I'm going to cut my yarn, and we're all finished with the cream color or whatever colors you chose to do the cupcake bottom of your cupcake. Now on this one, the cupcake under here I did in teal. And I'm actually going to use the purple. I'm going to mix my colors up a little bit so I can get a little bit of a different look, just for fun. All right, so I'm going to bring in my purple, or my orchid, I believe that's called. Alrighty, and I'm going to chain 3. On this row, we're just going to stitch 1 regular old double crochet in each of the double crochets around. Now, sometimes when you're stitching in the top of a front post or a back post stitch, it can be a little confusing where to put your stitch. And so what you need to do, and it's a great help to me, as I follow the braids or the stitch loops on the top. I yarn over, I'll go across those 2 loops and stitch my double crochet. It just helps me find it because it can be a little confusing, like I said, when you're doing front post or back post stitches and trying to just stitch a regular stitch across the top. All right, so just follow those sets of braid loops across the top, and we're just stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. And your stitch count is again going to be 40 stitches because we didn't add or subtract any stitches on this row. So you'll have 40 regular old double crochets. 1 double crochet in each stitch around. I stitched that row of 1 double crochet in each stitch around. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then we're just going to chain 1. On this next row, row 10, we're just going to stitch a single crochet in each of the double crochets. And the single crochet, you go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And we'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around. And then the next row, we're going to begin the top of our cupcake. Just to repeat, for row 10, we're stitching 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around. I completed that row of single crochets, and we're going to join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch, and we're going to cut our yarn because we're going to switch to the color that we're going to use for the top of our cupcake. On this one, I used the teal, and then I used the purple or orchid for the top. I'm going to use the pink for the top, just so that it gets a different look. All right, now we're going to join our pink in, or whatever color you're choosing. And we're going to be stitching in the back loops again. And the reason that we're doing that, let me grab this one again, is we're going to be stitching the top of our cupcake, and then we're going to come back in and stitch these little ripples or ruffles in the front loop. So we're going to be stitching this row in the back loops. Alrighty, so let's chain 3, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets, or sorry, each of the single crochets in the back loop. So we'll go to the back loop and stitch a double crochet. Oops, I got a string there. Don't want that. There we go. So 1 double crochet in each of the single crochets around, working in the back loop only. And again, you can see that line of loops, and we're going to use those loops to make that ruffle edge for our cupcake. Again, also, we're not adding or subtracting any stitches on this row, so you'll have 40 double crochets. One double crochet in each of the single crochets, working in the back loop only. So I stitched that row, 1 double crochet in each of the single crochets, working in the back loops only. And you can see that row of front loops that we can use to come back in and make that row of ruffles for our cupcake edge. All right, I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now for row 12, we're just going to repeat what we did for row 11, only we're not going to stitch in the back loops. So we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. One double crochet in each of the double crochets around, working all the way around, and then we'll join back to our chain 3. I completed that row of 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. We're going to join to our chain 3 and chain 3. All right, so now this next row, what we're going to do is called a decrease row. What we're going to do is we're going to alternate between a decrease stitch and a regular double crochet. And the decrease stitch is often called stitching 2 double crochets together. So what we'll do is we'll yarn over, we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook instead of the normal 3. Yarn over and go through those first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2. And what we've done is we've made 2 stitches into 1. So we decreased by 1. And so the next stitch is a regular double crochet because we're going to alternate. Regular double crochet and then a decrease stitch, or stitching 2 double crochets together. Yarn over, go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Those 4 loops, yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in the next. And so you can see we're alternating a decrease with a regular. Let's do another decrease. Then a regular double crochet. There we go. And what we're going to be doing around this row is alternating between our stitching 2 together or decrease stitch and a regular double crochet. So here's my regular double crochet. So I'm going to stitch a decrease or stitching 2 double crochets together with the next 2 stitches, and then a regular double crochet. Decrease stitch and regular double crochet. And we'll work this all the way around this row and join back to our chain 3. And you'll begin to notice that the top of your cupcake is going to curve in. I completed this row, alternating the decrease with the regular double crochet. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3 and chain 3. And we're going to repeat what we just did on that row on this row. So we'll stitch the first 2 together, and then we'll stitch a regular double crochet. And again, we'll do this all the way around, alternating the decrease stitch with a regular double crochet. And this is pulling the top of the cupcake even more in to form that shape. Whoops. Double crochet and double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together, alternating, working all the way around. You'll also notice that the hole in the top of your cupcake is getting smaller. Don't panic. We'll get the stuffing in before it gets closed. All right, we're back around. And now I'm going to join to the top of the chain 3 again. And I'm going to make a nice big loop, because what we want to do now is we want to put some of the stuffing in down in the bottom before we get the hole too small. So here's my stuffing. And I'm going to save a little bit, about this much, just a little handful, to stuff the little cherry that's going to be on the top. Now, the amount of stuffing you put inside yours is up to you. I like them pretty snug in there, but not too much, because I know my granddaughter likes to hug on them and throw them around. She just loves softies, especially if they're shaped like a cupcake. All right, now I'm going to stuff it in there, and I'm going to just reserve just a little bit in case I think that I need a little bit more. All righty. Like I said, it's up to you how much stuffing you want to put inside your cupcake. All right, so we've joined, we've stuffed. And we're going to do another row. So we're going to chain 3. And on this row, we're going to do all decrease stitches. So we'll yarn over, go in the first, pull up a loop, go in the next, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the 3, then the 2, and then we'll repeat another decrease stitch with the next 2 stitches. And we'll do this all the way around the top of our cupcake. And it's a little bit clumsy. That one's a little loose. I'm going to redo that one. I don't want it to be quite that loose. There we go. That's much better. But like I was saying, it's a little clumsy stitching this last row with it already stuffed. But I think it would be too complicated to try to stuff it and do this last row. So we're stitching 2 double crochets together all the way around, or decrease stitches. There we go. All right, there's my last one. I'm going to join to my chain 3, get in there. And now I'm going to tie off, but I'm going to leave myself about 12 or so inches so that I can close the top of my cupcake. All right, so tie that off. And now we have that tiny hole. So I'm going to grab my needle. And now we're just going to gather around that hole. I'm going to kind of squish it down so you can see. We're just going to go in and out those last stitches. And before you close this hole, you can decide if you want to add a little more stuffing down inside the top. I'm not. I think mine has enough, but it's up to you how much stuffing you want to put in the top of your cupcake. All right, so I went around completely. I'm going to give it a little snug pull. It looks good, so I'm just going to weave the top in just like this, making sure it's nice and snug and closed. All right, then I'm just going to go right down inside that cupcake, swish it around a little, and pull it up over here. And then I'll just clip my yarn. All right, so there's the cupcake, the body itself, the paper portion, the little cake portion, and the frosting. And what we're going to do next is we're going to come back in and make that rippled edge so our cupcake has a little bit of a ripple. So here's our stuffed cupcake. And now we're going to put on the ruffled edge. And remember this row here where we didn't stitch in those front loops. This is row 10. We're going to join our frosting color with a slip stitch. And the way the ruffle is going to work is we're going to stitch a slip stitch and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch a slip stitch in the next. And then the next stitch we'll stitch 2 double crochets, and we'll repeat this all the way around. Slip stitch in the next stitch, and again we're stitching in those front loops, and then 2 double crochets in the next. 1 and 2. And you'll notice they'll kind of stick up, and you just kind of flip them over just like that. Alrighty, so, and I kind of pinch it up a little so I can see those loops. I think it makes it a little easier. Slip stitch, and then 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Whoops. Slip stitch in the next, 2 double crochets in the next, 1 and 2. And then you just sort of flip them over, and that's how you get the ruffle on the edge of your cupcake. I kind of like mine sticking out a little because I think it's fun, and I like how the lavender or the other color sort of peeks through. I just think it makes it look festive. All right, and that's how we do that. We're going to do that all the way around till we meet back up to that first slip stitch where we started. Slip stitch, 2 double crochets in the next, slip stitch in the next, 2 double crochets in the next, all the way around. I completed that ruffle edge and I really love it in the pink. I think it's darling. And now all I need to do is make my little cherry, although I'm going to make the cherry in blue, so I guess it's going to be a blueberry. So I've got the yarn that I'm going to use for my blueberry or cherry or whatever you want to do on the top of yours. Now you can do a little pom-pom if you prefer. It's up to you. I just like to put something up there to kind of cover where we gathered it up. And I like the idea of a cherry. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our slip knot and we're going to chain 3. Then in the second chain from the hook, we're going to stitch 6 single crochets. So we'll go in that second chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through those first 2 loops. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get out of the way, and 6. Now we're not going to be joining. We're doing what's called stitching in the round. All right, so we're going to start right in that next single crochet, and we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in the first one. 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 1 in the next. And then we'll stitch 2 in the next. 1, 2. We'll stitch 1 in the next. 2 single crochets in the next, and then 1 more. Now if you feel like you need a stitch marker for this, you certainly can use one, but it's just 3 rows and then a few more rows to make it a little bigger. But I didn't use one for this, but if you're more comfortable using a stitch marker, since we're stitching in the round, go right ahead and use one. All right, now for row 3, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in that first single crochet, 1 and 2, and then we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the next 2. And then we'll repeat that. 2 in the next, and 1 in the next 2. 1 and, oops, 2. And then we'll repeat it one more time. 2 single crochets in the next, 1 single crochet in the next. All right, now you can start to see that it's the shape of a round ball. We're not going to be increasing anymore, and what we're going to do is stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets around. All right. Don't worry about this little hole. We'll close that up with this piece of string. And now we're going to repeat this for 3 more rows. 1 single crochet in each of the 12 single crochets for 3 more rows. So I've completed those 3 more rows, and I'm going to tie off, and I'm going to leave myself about 12 inches because we're going to stuff and gather this so that it looks like a berry on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right in that next stitch and stitch a slip stitch and tie that off. All right, now we want to deal with this first. So we're going to grab our needle and we're going to close that hole in the top of our cherry. So we're just going to go around those first stitches that we made and close that up. There we go. Whoops. There. Okay, and then we're just going to go back the way we came because we want to make sure that's not going to come undone. Would not want our cherry undone at the top, would we? Or berry, I should say, since this is blue. Maybe it's a blueberry or a raspberry. All right, and then I'm just going to stick that yarn right down inside. All right, I saved a little bit of stuffing, and you don't have to put very much, just enough for it to hold its shape. And you want to make sure you stuff it down in because we're going to gather right here, all right? Okay. We're going to take that long piece of yarn, and now we're just going to go around those edge of the top of, or the bottom, I should say, of our berry where we finished our last stitch, our last row, and we're just gathering it close. Now, you can look at this and decide if it's poochy enough. If not, you can always open that up and add a little bit more stuffing. All right, I'm just going to stitch across here just to make sure it doesn't open on us. That's why you need to have enough yarn, because you're going to close this and sew it on to the top of your cupcake. All right, so here's my cupcake and here's my berry. We want to place our berry right in the center of our cupcake. And what I do is I decide where I want my front to be. Here's my center, and I'll go right across like this. And you'll probably catch some of that stuffing, so watch out for that. Oh, drop my needle. Unthreaded. Let's do that again here. There we go. And then I'll go right in the side of the berry. And then I'll come to the front. And basically I'm going through the cupcake and through the berry. And I'll just keep doing that until I'm happy that my berry is going to stay put and that I like where I've got it. Because I know that this cupcake is going to be played with. I know my grandkids, they'll probably toss them around the room and make up a fun game. And that's totally fine with me, but I want it to hold up to their play. And I'll just keep doing that back and forth, going through the berry and the cupcake until I'm happy that it's going to stay put. And then once I do that, I just take the yarn and I go back and forth in that stuffing a little bit and then pull it out. And sometimes I'll go right back in and I'll do it again, just go through that stuffing back and forth and swirl around and pull it out a different spot. Be careful not to cut what you don't want to cut on your cupcake. And then you can kind of squish it down. And there's our cupcake with our blue raspberry. So here's our birthday Cupcake Softie. These are going to be so much fun to play with.